What up, everybody? Just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who's supported Lockdown Universe for the past 3 years. I really appreciate you. And if you've been thinking about a way to support, but you didn't have $1.99 to support for each month, that is okay. If you want to just buy me a coffee, there's an option for you to just buy me a coffee inside the description of each episode moving forward. So just highlight that, put it in your browser. You can go right there and buy me a coffee or two or three. I like coffee. Who doesn't? And I would really appreciate it. And it would keep me awake enough to make more podcasts for you guys. So I would appreciate that. And just wanted to let you know. Thanks for that. And thanks for supporting the podcast. Let's get to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, some of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. Today we got an interesting one, man. We're going down the rabbit hole. So I've been doing a lot of background research on different whistleblowers and gathering some information to collectively make a beautiful masterpiece. That's exactly what I'm trying to do today. This might be a two-part series because it's pretty in-depth and it involves a few pieces of the UFO government conspiracy, military abduction, or what they call my labs, and we're gonna piece a lot of it together today. So I know you guys have heard a lot about these stories, but I'm going to incorporate something interesting called the zombie army, which is what the government has been able to complete and create for many decades, maybe as far back as 1960s. We don't know. Could be even farther. But a few whistleblowers have come forward and talked about how the government has created and can create a zombie army of humans as well as a perfectly programmable life form, or they call it PLF, programmable life form, that can look exactly like any alien species that they want, and not only look like it, but act like it. So you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. Not that most of us would be able to tell the difference anyway, in all honesty, right? I mean, this isn't like your Hollywood created entity, right? Or created costume robot. This is like a real living entity that has a real consciousness to it, and they can create it. So let's go back. So how the hell would you go about creating a zombie army? Why would you want to do that? And what's the end game? What's the end goal? So what is a zombie army? So a zombie army is the government creating, they're not using humans to create the zombie army. They're using cloned humans to create a zombie army. So what these whistleblowers are stating is that they'll take genetic code from individuals, they'll create clones, and then they'll implant all the knowledge, all the intelligence, all the experiences into these clones, so that these clones actually think that they're real living people that were born onto the planet, not created. And they put them in these scenarios. And when they put them into these scenarios, they gather information. So they have a base. Okay? They create these clones. They'll have a humongous warehouse type space to create different scenarios to put these clones in to better understand how normal humans would react and how we can utilize that energy. Here's my thought process on this. Okay, one, do they really need a zombie army? Can they just steal people off the street to create them, not to create them, but to create these scenarios and put these people in them, right? There's like, what, 1 million people that go missing a year? Couldn't the government just take these people and put them into these scenarios so they can have a better understanding of the psychology and the fear and the chemical production that happens during possibly a alien invasion, right? Maybe they want to find out. Maybe one of the events that they have take place is a alien abduction event, and they want to find out how the body reacts and what chemicals it creates, so they can immediately take a blood test, immediately do brain testing and other scans to find out how the body reacts. And you say, well, why would they want to do this? Well, maybe they want to find out how to fight these things and what chemicals we can use to put into soldiers to combat this. But we don't want to put these expensive soldiers that we put a ton of money and training into. No, we're just going to use these clones that we created and we can throw them away. That's how high level this is. They can create these entities and they can throw them in the garbage when they're done with them. Even though these entities think they're alive, think they're real, and think that they were born on the planet, born into the planet, they can create as many of these as they want. And that's the really truly scary thing, is that we have heard these stories. I believe it was Thomas Cassell who talked about being in the Dulce base and seeing these pods of humans being grown, right? And these pods of aliens being grown as well. So that's why I'm going to incorporate the aliens as well into this scenario, because we're going to talk about the zombie army and talk about how it affects these military abductions. So, as you know, we have military abductions that are going on as well. Military abductions are staged events where there seems to be an alien abduction occurring to an individual. However, there's also a military member that they see involved. What this seems to be now is that if it's a current day abduction, it's no longer the Greys. The Grey agreement was dissolved with the help of another alien species, according to Randy Kramer. Totally different scenario and subject, but they actually were able to get out of that contract and move forward. Now, what we find is that these military abductions that are occurring and the aliens, quote unquote aliens involved with the military members as well, are not aliens. They're actually military members dressed up as aliens. Or they're programmable life forms, PLFs, where they can create a 10-foot tall reptilian or a 3-foot tall gray to make it seem like they're there, to make it seem like they're in charge, but in all actuality they aren't. Now, this would kind of go along the lines of Stephen Greer's "We're all space brothers and we're all friendly and aliens are not the enemy, the government is." Now, that's what this kind of thought process goes along with, and that's what these few whistleblowers say is happening. It is interesting to note that we did just have that one whistleblower come forward in the Disclosure Project who talked about being a Marine in Indonesia and seeing that black UFO, and the fact that he saw those black camo dudes, basically, the black garbed military members, what appeared to be loading in humans into a UFO. Now, it gets really interesting because these other whistleblowers that I've been talking about have stated that we've been using these alien reproductive vehicles, whether they're discs, whether they're the TR-3B, whether they're, a rectangle, whatever they want to create, they can create and make it seem as though these abductions are taking place by aliens. It seems to be that we've mastered the capability of anti-gravity and been able to use it for our abduction purposes. So this is pretty wild, because if you want to think about it for a second, they could use a zombie army created. The individuals in the zombie army don't have to look like any human that's alive. They could just create a new entity out of nothing. So their face could never be recognized. They could have pictures taken of them, and never be able to be identified. They could use these individuals during these military abductions. They could instill fear into these individuals. This fear then can be utilized in many different ways. Remember, fear is fuel in many different ways. It can be bottled and used by the reptilians, the actual reptilians. Is it possible that the government figured out a way to actually bottle this for themselves? Or are they possibly bottling it for the reptilians? That's another really interesting question that goes on with these military abductions, because they could be working for the reptilians. The reptilians could have mind control over them. When it comes to mind control, it's really interesting because um, Emery Smith talked about working for Los Alamos. While he was there, they were working on this project that involved brain control, mind control, and using frequencies to do that. And they were able to figure out that if they used certain frequencies, they could create emotions in people. They could make them angry. They could make them sad. They could make them happy. They could make them fight, whatever the case is. And so, if they've created that, then they can truly have control over a zombie army. And if they wanted to, they could create and make that zombie army do anything. And we keep talking about Project Blue Book. We keep talking about how, you know, the government can use holograms or other technologies to instill fear into us and make us think that there's an alien invasion. Well, what if they could create a zombie army of reptilians and make them stomp right into some metropolitan area, creating and causing tons of havoc, and then having our military come in and blow them up out, blow them off the planet, blow them off the map, and then say, "Hey, we're the heroes. You guys have to get behind us. You guys have to realize that these guys are the enemies. These guys are, somebody that we all need to rally against, so that we can all be on the same page." I'm not saying reptilians are great. I'm not saying they're good at all. Matter of fact, they're probably one of the worst ones out there. Specific ones, not all of them. But like the 2001, falling of the Twin Towers, a lot of people believe that's an inside job. The government may use these types of armies, these types of programmable life forms, to initiate some sort of event where the public can get behind the government. And then the government doesn't need to control you at all. They can just say, "Hey, this is our enemy. This is who it is. Let's go after him." Now, here's a secondary question. Would they necessarily need to do that if what Emery states is really happening at Los Alamos, where they're able to do mind control and initiate a fear response or a fighting response with frequency? Well, maybe they haven't fully achieved mind control yet, right? Like, maybe they can put out a frequency, like, I don't know, putting on some heavy metal crazy music and making people bash into each other. It's scientifically proven that if you put on that kind of music, you're going to elicit a response. It's scientifically proven that if you put on, I don't know, some Enya or some relaxing flute music, that you're going to get a certain kind of biological response. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. So maybe they just haven't figured out how to fully control us yet. Because if they did, well, we probably wouldn't have any free will at all. So it gets really interesting. These philosophical questions become very interesting, and it makes me think that those alien beings like the pterodactyls that have been talked about in the lower portions of like S2 and S4, those philosophical questions of where is humanity going, who's going to control humanity, what is the ultimate goal out of humanity, makes you wonder if those are some of the questions they're working on down there and trying to figure out, how can we get ourselves out of this military industrial complex mess that we've gotten ourselves into. So we're at about 13 minutes here, so I want to kind of move on for a second. One of the other things that they talked about during these military abductions, and one of the whistleblowers, even Emery Smith, talked about how, and David Wilcock too, he stated that they had heard that there was a MILAB, military abduction of the United Nations Secretary General, the highest level of politics in the world, on the globe. And David Wilcock said, why would they go to such lengths? Why would they go to the highest levels? And Emery stated that it's fear. It's because they want fear. But he didn't state why. Okay, fear's great, right? We know fear, it can be used for different reasons, but are they trying to instill fear into these high-level positions because they need to stage an alien invasion? Do they? Maybe. And what's the benefit of staging an alien invasion? To get the fear out of people, to make us want to go to war with the aliens? To generate some sort of energy response so that they can bottle it up in whatever way that they can bottle things up? Maybe they have one of those sweet kind of like, remember in Ghostbusters where they slide out the ghost trap? Maybe they have something like that where they can trap all of the negative energy that we release when we're underneath fear and trapping that. It makes you wonder, right? Because they say that we can generate so much energy coming out of our consciousness, coming out of the things that we do, we think, we feel, and our chemistry. Imagine what might have come out during COVID when that first started happening, and all the fear, all the misunderstandings, all of the, do I have COVID? If I get COVID, will I die? If whatever, right? All of that turmoil that happened. Imagine everything that could have been bottled up during that time. I mean, just those couple years. And was that, a psyop, psychological operation so they could bottle up that energy? Just a thought. There's a lot to go through when it comes to military abductions, when it comes to this zombie army that they can create, that they can regenerate the muscle tissue, that we could talk about. Could probably make this an hour-long podcast easy. The other really, I'm going to end this here, but the other really interesting thing that they have is the capability to regenerate the muscles. If somebody has like a catastrophic spinal injury, they can actually regenerate those nerve muscles by placing a device on the base of the spine, and it will actually go in and regenerate those nerves to the nerve core so that they can have full capabilities back. It's this kind of technology, right? The technology to create a zombie army, to regenerate muscle tissue, to stage MyLabs, to anti-gravity. There's just like so much stuff. Frequency generators, mind control. There's so much in this episode that could be its own individual podcast. And I'm sure I've done plenty of them on their own. But as we get deeper and deeper into this, I'm hoping you guys can keep up. because we start to piece all these puzzles together, and we start to say, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. And we're trying to figure out the end game, right? Isn't that kind of what we're trying to do? We're trying to figure out the end game, and there's so many players in the game that it's near impossible to figure out, the full end game. You could figure out, okay, maybe this is one group of humanity's end game, and maybe this is one government's end game, and maybe this is the one segment of the Greys end game, and maybe this is one segment of the Reptilians end game. And you could go down that list, and that would be an interesting podcast, just to figure out different segments end game. But boy, talk about a lot of research you'd have to do, right? It's just so much in it. But one thing's for sure, we've come a long way when it comes to genetics. If these statements are true from these whistleblowers, that we can create basically any alien we want and program the life and use it for our own robots. That's really mind-blowing, if that's true. The robotic technology that's in the civilian sector right now is cool, but it's nowhere near the capability of creating a biological, fully independent, autonomous entity. we're not anywhere near that. So if this is true, the government is like light years beyond us, which I think a lot of us already know. So anyway, guys, I'll end it there. I'm going to bring you another great podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this Zombie Army, My Lab, frequency generator, uh, kind of conglomeration. Because keep in mind, a lot of this is tied to something else. The alien crafts are tied to the aliens that are tied to their home world, that are tied to their own passions and desires and needs and end games. And apparently our own government, or some dark form of our government, has their own end game when it comes to these zombie armies and my labs. And we got to figure out what's going on. So it's only us that can help each other. The more we talk to each other, the better off we are. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves physically, spiritually, emotionally, following through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams, and as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care, and Lockdown Universe out.